The wager that changed everything. Captain Jake Morrison lay bleeding on the cold metal floor of the Zephyrian prison transport, his uniform torn and his left arm hanging uselessly at his side. 3 days ago, he had been leading a rescue mission to save captured Earth colonists. Now he was merchandise in an alien gambling ring, his life reduced to entertainment for creatures who saw humans as nothing more than primitive beasts. The ship's cargo hold reeked of fear and desperation. Dozens of beings from across the galaxy huddled in cages, waiting to be sold or forced into combat. But Jake's attention was drawn to a figure in the corner, a young woman with silver hair and luminescent blue skin that marked her as Celestin, one of the most prized species in the black market. "You're staring," she whispered, her voice carrying a musical quality that made his chest tighten. Her violet eyes met his through the energy bars of her cage, and he saw intelligence there, not the broken spirit he expected. "Sorry," Jake managed, wincing as pain shot through his ribs. "I'm Jake Morrison, Earth Defense Corps." "Zara Night Whisper," she replied, pressing closer to the bars. "Former diplomat of the Celestin Council, current property of Lord Vex." Her tone carried bitter irony. "Though I suspect we're both about to become something else entirely." As if summoned by her words, the cargo hold's doors hissed open. Lord Vex himself entered, his serpentine body coiling as he moved. The alien crime lord's reputation preceded him. He controlled the largest gladiatorial arena in the Outer Rim, where captured beings fought for the entertainment of the wealthy and cruel. "Ah, my prizes," Vex hissed, his forked tongue tasting the air. The broken human soldier and the beautiful Celestin diplomat. Perfect for tonight's special event. Jake's blood ran cold as he realized what was happening. Vex's arena was famous for its twisted betting games, where spectators wagered on the lives of the unwilling participants. The alien's next words confirmed his worst fears. "Tonight, you fight for more than your lives," Vex announced, his yellow eyes gleaming with sadistic pleasure. "The human will face 3 of my champion beasts. If he wins, both of you go free. If he loses—" He gestured toward Zara with a clawed hand. "The Celestin becomes my personal collection's newest addition." Zara's face went pale, her luminescent skin dimming with terror. Jake had heard whispers about Vex's collection, beings kept as living trophies, their minds eventually broken by captivity and abuse. "That's not a fair fight," Jake protested, struggling to his feet despite his injuries. "I'm wounded, and you know it." Vex's laugh was like breaking glass. "Fair? My dear human, nothing about this is fair. That's what makes it entertaining. The crowd loves an underdog story, especially when it ends in tragedy." The transport shuddered as it entered a planet's atmosphere. Through the small viewport, Jake could see the lights of a massive city sprawling across the surface. At its center stood the arena, a colossal structure that seemed to pulse with malevolent energy. "Why her?" Jake asked, nodding toward Zara. "What makes her so valuable to you?" Vex's expression grew even more predatory. "Celestins are rare, beautiful, and they live for centuries. But this one is special. She was part of the diplomatic mission trying to expose my operations to the Galactic Council. Imagine how satisfying it will be to break someone who once stood against me." As the guards began opening the cages, Jake caught Zara's eye. In that moment, something passed between them. A understanding, a promise. He had failed his last mission, let his team down when it mattered most. But he wouldn't fail her. The arena awaited, and with it, a chance at redemption that would cost everything. Into the arena of nightmares. The arena's preparation chambers were designed to intimidate. Harsh lights cast stark shadows on the metal walls, and the air hummed with the energy fields that prevented escape. Jake sat on a bench, trying to ignore the medic's rough treatment of his wounds. The alien's 6 hands worked efficiently, sealing, cuts and injecting him with stimulants. "This will keep you conscious," the medic clicked in broken standard. "Lord Vex wants entertainment, not quick death." Through the transparent wall, Jake could see Zara in the adjacent chamber. She had been given ceremonial robes, beautiful but clearly designed to emphasize her value as a prize. Her hands were shaking, but her back remained straight, her dignity intact despite everything. A communication panel crackled to life. "Human," Vex's voice oozed through the speakers. "I want you to understand the odds. 3 Ravagers, genetic, predators bred for the arena. Each one is twice your size, 3 times your strength, and absolutely hungry for blood." Jake's jaw tightened. "And if I somehow win, then you and the Celestin walk free. You have my word as a businessman." The mockery in Vex's tone made it clear how much that word was worth. The chamber door slid open, and Jake was escorted through a tunnel that led to the arena floor. The roar of the crowd hit him like a physical force. Thousands of beings filled the stands, their alien voices creating a cacophony of bloodthirsty excitement. Above them all, in a luxury box overlooking the arena, sat Lord Vex with his honored guests. The arena itself was a circular pit surrounded by energy barriers. Sand beneath Jake's feet was stained dark with the blood of previous fighters. Weapon racks lined the walls, but most were empty or contained only rusty, broken implements. "Ladies and gentlemen," Vex's amplified voice boomed across the arena. "Tonight's entertainment features a rare treat, a human soldier attempting to save his Celestin companion." The crowd's roar intensified. Jake spotted Zara in Vex's box, now seated in chains beside the crime lord's throne. Even from this distance, he could see her fear, but also something else, faith. She believed in him somehow. A section of the arena floor opened, and the first Ravager emerged. The creature was a nightmare-made flesh, 8 feet tall, covered in chitinous armor with multiple eyes and mandibles that dripped acidic saliva. It moved with predatory grace, immediately fixating on Jake. Jake grabbed a dented sword from the nearest rack just as the beast charged. His training kicked in: dodge, assess, survive. The Ravager's claws whistled past his head as he rolled aside, coming up in a defensive stance. The crowd booed his evasion. It wanted blood, violence, spectacle. Jake ignored them, focusing on the creature's movement patterns. It was fast but predictable, relying on brute force rather than strategy. The second Ravager emerged before Jake could fully analyze the first. Now he faced 2 of the beasts, their hunting instincts driving them to coordinate their attacks. Jake's wounded arm screamed in protest as he parried a claw strike, the impact sending him staggering. In the luxury box, Zara watched with growing horror. She had seen the reports on Ravagers. They were nearly impossible to kill, bred specifically to be unstoppable arena champions. Yet Jake continued to fight, his movements becoming more fluid as he adapted to their attack patterns. The third Ravagers entrance changed everything. 3 apex predators circled Jake like wolves, their hungry eyes reflecting the arena's harsh lights. The crowd's roar reached a fever pitch as bets were placed on how long the human would last. Jake's breath came in ragged gasps. Blood loss and exhaustion were taking their toll, but he couldn't give up. Not with Zara's life hanging in the balance. Not when she was looking at him with such faith in her violet eyes. One of the Ravagers lunged, and Jake made a desperate gambit. Instead of dodging away, he threw himself forward, sliding between the creature's legs and driving his sword upward into its vulnerable underbelly. The beast's screech of pain and rage echoed through the arena as it collapsed. The crowd's mood shifted. The impossible was happening. The broken human was actually fighting back. The impossible victory 2 Ravagers remained, but Jake's small victory had changed the dynamic. The creatures were no longer confident predators. they were cautious, wary of the human who had just killed their packmate. Jake used their hesitation to his advantage, putting his back to the arena wall and forcing them to approach from limited angles. In the luxury box, Lord Vex leaned forward in his throne, his serpentine features twisted with concern. This wasn't going according to plan. The human should have been dead minutes ago, providing a quick, brutal show before Vex claimed his prize. Instead, the crowd was actually cheering for the underdog. "Impossible," Vex hissed to his lieutenant. "Humans are weak, primitive. How is he still standing?" Zara heard the doubt in the crime lord's voice and felt a spark of hope ignite in her chest. She had studied humans during her diplomatic career, fascinated by their reputation for defying impossible odds. Now she was witnessing that legendary stubbornness firsthand. On the arena floor, Jake wiped blood from his eyes and assessed his remaining opponents. The sword in his hand was notched and bent, barely holding together. His left arm was useless, and his vision was starting to blur from blood loss. But he was still alive, and that was more than anyone had expected. The first Ravager charged, its massive claws extended. Jake waited until the last second before dropping to one knee, letting the creature's momentum carry it past him while he drove his blade into its knee joint. The beast stumbled, off balance, and Jake seized the opportunity to strike at its throat. The crowd erupted as the second Ravager fell. Beings who had bet against the human screamed in outrage while others chanted his name, though most didn't know what it was, simply calling him the human warrior. One Ravager left. This one was the largest, clearly the pack's alpha. It circled Jake slowly, learning from its companion's mistakes. Intelligence gleamed in its multiple eyes as it studied the wounded human. Jake's legs trembled with exhaustion. The stimulants the medic had given him were wearing off, and his natural adrenaline could only carry him so far. But as he looked up at Zara in the box, he saw something that gave him strength. She was no longer just watching. She was fighting her own battle, working at the chains that bound her wrists with a piece of sharp metal she'd somehow acquired. The final Ravager struck like lightning, its massive form moving with impossible speed. Jake's sword shattered against its armored hide, leaving him weaponless. The creature's claws raked across his chest, sending him sprawling across the blood-soaked sand. The crowd held its breath. This was it, the moment they'd been waiting for. The human's impossible run was about to end in the most spectacular way possible. But Jake wasn't finished. As the Ravager loomed over him, preparing to deliver the killing blow, he spotted something. In the sand, a piece of his broken sword, still sharp and gleaming. Without thinking, he rolled sideways and grabbed the shard, driving it upward just as the creature descended. The improvised blade found its mark, sliding between the Ravagers' armor plates and piercing its heart. The beast's weight crashed down on Jake, pinning him to the arena floor. For a moment, silence filled the massive stadium. Then Jake's hand emerged from beneath the creature's bulk, raised in victory. The crowd exploded into chaos, some cheering, others riding, as fortunes were lost and won. But Jake only had eyes for one person. In the luxury box, Zara had broken free of her chains. She stood at the barrier, tears streaming down her luminescent cheeks, her violet eyes shining with pride and something deeper. The broken human had done the impossible. He had won. Lord Vex sat frozen in his throne, unable to process what had just happened. His champion beasts lay dead. His reputation was in ruins, and by the ancient laws of the arena, he was bound to honor his wager. "Ladies and gentlemen," the arena announcer's voice was filled with amazement, "we have witnessed the impossible. The human warrior has defeated the Ravagers." But Jake barely heard the announcement. As medical teams rushed onto the arena floor, his vision faded to black. The last thing he saw before unconsciousness took him was Zara's face, beautiful and radiant with hope. He had won. Against all odds, he had saved her. The price of freedom. Jake woke up in a medical facility, his body wrapped in healing bandages and connected to various alien medical devices. Sunlight streamed through a window, and for a moment he couldn't remember where he was or how he'd gotten there. Then the memories came flooding back. The arena, the Ravagers, Zara's face in the crowd. "You're awake," a familiar melodic voice said. Jake turned to see Zara sitting beside his bed, her silver hair catching the light. She looked different, no longer the terrified captive he'd fought to save, but a woman transformed by hope. Freedom. How long? Jake's voice was hoarse from disuse. 3 days, Zara replied, reaching out to touch his hand. Her skin was warm despite its luminescent quality. "The medical team said you nearly died from blood loss. But you're stronger than they expected." Jake struggled to sit up, wincing at the protest from his healing wounds. "Vex? Gone." Zara's expression darkened. He honored the wager publicly. He had to, or risk losing face among the other crime lords. But he's vanished, along with most of his organization. Word is spreading about what happened in the arena. Good. Jake managed a weak smile. "Where are we?" "Sanctuary Station, a neutral port in the Kepler system. The arena medical team brought us here after." She paused, her voice catching. "After you collapsed. I've been negotiating with the station administrators for safe passage to civilized space." Jake studied her face, noting the lines of worry around her violet eyes. "There's something you're not telling me." Zara hesitated, then sighed. "Vex may be gone, but his reputation isn't. What you did in that arena, killing 3 Ravagers, with nothing but a broken sword and determination, it's become legend. Every bounty hunter and thrill seeker in the sector knows your name now." The implications hit Jake like a physical blow. "I've made us both targets." "Not targets," Zara corrected gently. "You've made yourself a symbol. There are dozens of species across the galaxy who've suffered under beings like Vex. When they heard about a human who stood up to the arena system and won, it gave them hope." As if to prove her point, the door chimed and a group of beings entered. Jake recognized them as former slaves and prisoners, various species united by their shared experience of oppression. They looked at him with something approaching reverence. "The human warrior," one of them said in accented standard. "You have given us all hope." Jake felt uncomfortable with their adoration. "I'm not a warrior. I'm just a soldier who got lucky." "Lucky?" Zara's laugh was like music. "Jake, you fought 3 genetically engineered killing machines while wounded and exhausted. That wasn't luck. That was courage." Over the following days, Jake recovered his strength while Zara worked to secure their passage to safety. But their story had spread throughout the station, drawing both admirers and those who sought to profit from their fame. The attention made Jake uncomfortable, but he began to understand what Zara meant about becoming a symbol. "I never wanted to be famous," he told her one evening as they watched the stars through the station's observation deck. "I just wanted to save you." Zara moved closer to him, her shoulder brushing against his. "Why?" she asked softly. "You didn't know me. I was just another prisoner." Jake was quiet for a long moment, considering her question. "Because it was right," he finally said. "Because someone had to stand up to Vex and his kind. Because ... He turned to look at her, meeting her violet eyes. "Because from the moment I saw you in that cage, I knew I couldn't let anything happen to you." Something shifted in the air between them. Zara reached up to touch his face, her luminescent skin seeming to glow brighter in the dim light. "You saved more than just my life, Jake Morrison. You saved my faith in the possibility of goodness in this universe." Their lips met in a kiss that was gentle and tentative at first. then deeper as they both acknowledged what had been growing between them since that first moment in the cargo hold. Different species, different worlds, but somehow perfectly matched. In this moment of peace they'd fought so hard to achieve, when they finally broke apart, Zara rested her forehead against his. "What happens now?" she whispered. Jake pulled her closer, marveling at how perfectly she fit in his arms. "Now we start over together." A new beginning 6 months later, Jake stood on the bridge of the merchant vessel Starlight's Edge, watching as the ship approached the coordinates Zara had provided. The past months had been a whirlwind of adventure and danger as they'd worked to establish a new life together, but this moment felt different, like coming home. There, Zara pointed to a blue-green world rotating slowly in the view screen. Harmony Colony. It's one of the few truly integrated settlements in this sector. Dozens of species living and working together in peace. Jake slipped his arm around her waist, still amazed by how natural the gesture had become. Their relationship had deepened. During their travels, built on shared danger and mutual respect that had blossomed into something neither had expected to find, true love that transcended the boundaries of species and culture. "Are you sure about this?" he asked. "Starting over isn't easy." Zara leaned into his embrace, her silver hair shimmering in the bridge's soft lighting. "After what we've been through, I think we can handle a little honest work." The colony's spaceport was bustling with activity as ships from across the galaxy arrived and departed. As they disembarked, Jake noticed the easy interaction between different species, humans working alongside Celestins, reptilian traders sharing meals with insectoid engineers, children of various species playing together without fear or prejudice. "It's beautiful," Jake murmured, watching a group of mixed-species families enjoying a picnic in the spaceport's central plaza. Their reputation had preceded them even here. The colony's administrator, an elderly human woman named Director Chun, greeted them personally. "Captain Morrison, Ambassador Nightwhisper," she said with a warm smile. "Welcome to Harmony Colony. We've been following your story with great interest." "Just Jake and Zara now," Jake replied. "We're looking to start fresh." Director Chun nodded approvingly. "That's what Harmony is all about. Fresh starts, second chances, and building something better together. I understand you're both interested in our security and diplomatic programs?" Over the next weeks, Jake and Zara settled into their new roles. Jake joined the colony's security force, using his military training to help protect the diverse population. Zara worked with the diplomatic corps, helping to resolve conflicts between different species groups, but their greatest impact came from simply being themselves, a human and Celestin couple who had found love in the darkest circumstances and used it to build something beautiful. Their story inspired others, showing that differences could be strengths rather than barriers. One evening, as they walked through the colony's market district, Zara stopped at a vendor selling handcrafted jewelry. The artisan, a six-armed being with crystalline skin, looked up with wide eyes. "You're them?" she whispered in accented standard. "The arena couple. Your story gave me courage to leave my abusive mate and start over here." Stories like this had become common. Refugees and survivors from across the galaxy came to Harmony Colony, drawn by the promise of a place where anyone could start over, regardless of their past or their species. As they continued their evening walk, Jake and Zara found themselves at the colony's memorial garden, where names of those lost to violence and oppression were etched in stone. Jake ran his fingers over the symbols, thinking of all the beings who hadn't been lucky enough to escape places like Vex's arena. "Do you ever regret it?" Zara asked softly. "Giving up your military career, your old life?" Jake turned to her, taking her hands in his. In the garden's soft lighting, her luminescent skin seemed to glow with inner light, and her violet eyes held depths of love and understanding that still took his breath away. "Never," he said firmly. "That day in the arena, I thought I was fighting for your freedom. But I was really fighting for our future. This future." Zara smiled, the expression transforming her already beautiful features into something radiant. "I love you, Jake Morrison, my hero, my partner, my home." "I love you too, Zara Nightwhisper, and this is just the beginning." As they kissed under the alien stars, surrounded by the gentle sounds of a peaceful colony where dozens of species lived. In harmony, they knew they had found something precious, not just love, but purpose. They had become living proof that even in the darkest circumstances, hope could survive and flourish. Their story continued to spread throughout the galaxy, inspiring others to believe that love could conquer hatred, that courage could overcome fear, and that sometimes the most broken people could become the greatest heroes. Jake and Zara had gambled everything on each other, and they had won more than freedom. They had won a future filled with infinite possibilities.